Evolution is supposed to be fair. One tiny improvement, then another. Over millions of years. But every once in a while, it completely forgets game balance. It's almost like evolution had one employee whose entire job was saying, you know what? Give this shrimp a punch faster than a bullet. Make this whale hunt sharks. And while we're at it, let's make this tiny microscopic blob survive outer space. Nobody stopped him. And honestly, I'm glad they didn't. Because the animals you're about to meet aren't just powerful. They're so ridiculously overpowered that if they existed in a video game, players would immediately complain, "This is broken, please nerf it." Let's start with the smallest troublemaker on this list, the mantis shrimp. At first glance, it doesn't look dangerous at all. It looks like someone took a regular shrimp, covered it in neon paint, and gave it permanent anger issues. If you saw one underwater, you probably wouldn't think twice. That would be a mistake. A very expensive mistake, especially if you're a crab. See? The mantis shrimp doesn't rely on claws. It carries two biological hammers, and those hammers move faster than a bullet. Yeah, a shrimp, faster than a bullet. But that's not even the craziest part. Its punch is so unbelievably fast that the water around it can't get out of the way. Instead, the water briefly tears apart, forming tiny vacuum bubbles. A fraction of a second later, those bubbles collapse. And when they do, they release another explosion. So technically, the shrimp punches you once. And then physics punches you a second time. One hit. Two explosions. Because apparently one wasn't dramatic enough. The force is powerful enough to smash crab shells, crack snail armor, and in some cases, even break aquarium glass. Imagine explaining that to your family. So, how did the fish tank break? Well, the shrimp got a little emotional, and evolution still wasn't finished. Humans see the world using 3 types of color receptors. The mantis shrimp has around 16. Meanwhile, half of us still can't agree whether a dress is blue or gold. Evolution looked at this tiny creature and basically clicked, maximum upgrades. Now, a shrimp that breaks physics is already ridiculous. But what if I told you there's an animal so powerful that even sharks avoid it? Meet the orca, the undisputed final boss of the ocean. Every ecosystem has an apex predator. On land, it's lions. In the sky, it's eagles. In the ocean, most people would probably say sharks. But sharks aren't actually at the top, because something hunts them. Orcas. And they don't just hunt, they plan. Some pods work together to create waves, washing seals off floating ice. Others flip sharks upside down. Now that sounds funny, until you realize why. When sharks are turned upside down, they enter a trance called tonic immobility. It's basically the shark equivalent of someone pressing the pause button, which is a terrible feature when something is trying to eat you. Other orca families specialize in hunting whales. Think about that. A predator that hunts other predators, including animals much larger than itself. But here's the part scientists find even more fascinating. Different orca families hunt differently. Some teach wave hunting. Others teach shark hunting. Others have completely different diets. It's almost like different countries with different recipes. Except every recipe starts with, Step 1, find something enormous. These hunting techniques are passed from one generation to the next. That's culture, not human culture. Orca culture. Which means every generation becomes even better hunters than the last. That's one reason adult orcas have almost no natural predators. When the apex predator starts hunting other apex predators, you've officially become the final boss. Now you'd think evolution would slow down after creating something like that. It doesn't. Because next, it gave a tiny beetle its own built-in chemical weapon. Meet the bombardier beetle. Most insects survive by hiding, running away, or pretending they're dead. The bombardier beetle chose a different strategy. Violence. Science-powered violence. Inside its body, it stores 2 chemicals. Separately, they're completely harmless, which honestly sounds very responsible. But the moment a predator attacks, those chemicals mix together. Instantly, the reaction becomes so violent that the beetle fires a boiling hot chemical blast straight into its attacker's face. Not once, several times. Rapid fire. Imagine biting into your lunch and your lunch suddenly screams, "Chemical attack initiated." You're probably not taking a second bite. The amazing part is that the beetle survives every single explosion. Evolution somehow designed a tiny reaction chamber inside its body, strong enough to contain the blast while directing it toward the enemy. Humans spent thousands of years learning chemistry. This beetle showed up, already carrying a flamethrower. And somehow, this still isn't the craziest animal on our list. Because next, we're meeting a creature that regularly picks fights with lions, steals from venomous snakes, escapes zoos, and somehow survives all of it. The honey badger. An animal that genuinely seems to wake up every morning and choose violence. So, we've already met a shrimp that punches so hard it breaks physics, an orca that treats sharks like appetizers, and a beetle carrying its own portable chemical explosion. You'd think evolution would have looked at all that and said, okay, that's enough. It didn't. Because next, we're talking about the honey badger, an animal with one very simple philosophy. If it breathes, I can fight it. The honey badger isn't big. It isn't fast. It isn't particularly strong compared to the animals around it. But confidence? Oh, it's got enough confidence for the entire animal kingdom. Honey badgers have been seen chasing lions away from food, fighting hyenas, attacking venomous snakes, and somehow, they keep coming back for more. It's like watching a guy show up to a heavyweight boxing match, wearing flip-flops, and somehow winning. So what's the secret? Well, for starters, its skin is incredibly thick, loose too. That might not sound exciting until you realize what it means. When another animal bites a honey badger, it often can't get a good grip. The badger can actually twist around inside its own skin and bite back. Imagine grabbing someone's jacket and suddenly, the jacket punches you in the face. That's basically what's happening. But thick skin is only half the story. Honey badgers also have an impressive resistance to many snake venoms. Now, that doesn't make them invincible. A big enough dose can still kill them. But compared to most mammals, they can survive encounters that would end very differently for almost anything else. And then, there's the attitude. Scientists have watched honey badgers steal food from animals, several times their size. Not because they had no choice, because apparently they took it personally. Zoos have learned another lesson. Never underestimate one. Honey badgers have escaped enclosures by stacking logs, rolling rocks, using branches like ladders, and figuring out simple locks. At this point, zookeepers don't manage honey badgers. They negotiate with them. Now, being fearless is impressive. But what if you never had to fight at all? What if you could eliminate your target from a safe distance? Meet the archerfish. Nature's original sniper. Picture this. You're an insect relaxing on a branch over the water. Life is good. The sun is shining. Nothing could possibly. Boom. A fish shoots you out of the tree. Worst day ever. The archerfish hunts by firing thin jets of water with incredible precision. One shot and insects come falling straight into the water. Easy meal. But here's the problem. Everything above the surface looks distorted. Light bends when it moves between water and air, which means the insect isn't actually where it appears to be. Humans have to learn that in physics class. The archerfish, it just knows. Without equations, without trial and error, without posting questions on Reddit, its brain automatically corrects for the distortion before it fires. Scientists have seen archerfish knock insects off branches from several feet away. That's ridiculous accuracy for something that doesn't even have hands. Nature invented a sniper millions of years before humans invented scopes. Speaking of things that shouldn't exist, let's talk about electricity. Most of us panic when our phone battery drops below 20%. The electric eel is the battery. Despite the name, it isn't actually a true eel, which somehow feels like the least surprising fact about it. Its body is packed with thousands of specialized cells. Each one produces a tiny electrical charge. On its own, not very impressive. But together, hundreds of volts. Enough to stun prey, enough to scare predators, and definitely enough to ruin your day. Imagine trying to eat dinner and your dinner suddenly electrocutes you. That's got to be one of evolution's biggest Uno reverse cards. But electricity isn't just a weapon. The rivers electric eels live in are dark, muddy, and almost impossible to see through. Eyes don't help much. So instead, the eel creates weak electrical pulses. Those pulses bounce off nearby objects, giving it a picture of everything around it. It doesn't just see with its eyes. It sees with electricity. And if something gets a little too close, the eel has one final surprise. It can leap partly out of the water, press itself against an attacker, and deliver an even stronger shock. Imagine going fishing and somehow the fish catches you. Now, if that wasn't weird enough, our next animal somehow manages to top it. Because this one might actually be an alien. At least, that's what it feels like. Meet the octopus. If someone showed you an octopus without telling you it lived on Earth, you'd probably assume it came from another planet. It changes color in the blink of an eye. It changes texture too. One moment it's clearly visible. The next, it's basically invisible. But camouflage is only the beginning. Octopuses solve puzzles, open jars, use tools, recognize individual humans, and perhaps most impressively, escape aquariums. Seriously. Some have escaped their tanks, slithered across the floor, stolen fish from neighboring tanks, and quietly returned home before anyone noticed. That's not survival. That's organized crime. But here's the part that completely blows scientists away. Most animals keep almost all of their neurons inside one brain. An octopus doesn't. More than half of its neurons are inside its arms. Think about that. Each arm can process information almost independently. Imagine your hand making decisions while your brain is busy thinking about lunch. That's essentially how an octopus works. Scientists are still trying to fully understand it, which is both fascinating and slightly concerning. Because somewhere beneath the ocean, there's an animal that can solve puzzles, break out of prison, turn invisible, and literally think with its arms. Maybe the octopus isn't the weird one. Maybe we're just boring. And somehow, even this isn't the strangest thing evolution has ever created. Because next, we're about to meet a hunter with almost perfect accuracy, a fungus that turns living creatures into puppets. The one species that conquered the planet without claws or venom. And finally, the tiny creature that survived outer space just to show off. So far, we've met a shrimp that punches like an underwater cannon, a whale that bullies sharks, a beetle with a built-in flamethrower, a badger that clearly has no survival instincts, a fish that became a sniper, another fish that became a power plant, and an octopus that honestly feels like it pays taxes on another planet. At this point, you'd think evolution had officially run out of ideas. It hadn't, because our next animal doesn't just hunt well. It hunts almost perfectly. Meet the dragonfly. When people think of elite hunters, they usually picture lions, wolves, maybe great white sharks. And that's fair. They're incredible predators. But compared to a dragonfly, they're honestly having an average day. A lion succeeds in about 1 out of every 4 hunts. Pretty impressive. A dragonfly? Around 95%. 95. Imagine if your Wi-Fi was that reliable. Actually, don't. It's unrealistic. So how does something the size of your finger become one of the greatest hunters on Earth? It doesn't chase prey. It predicts it. Most predators react. Dragonflies calculate. Their brain figures out where an insect is going, not where it is. So instead of following their target, they simply intercept it. It's like watching someone catch a baseball without ever taking their eyes off the crowd. Then there are the eyes. A dragonfly can see almost everything around it. Nearly 360 degrees. Sneaking up on one is basically impossible. In those 4 wings, each one moves independently. Forward, backward, hovering, instant turns. It's flying on expert mode. Tiny body, nearly perfect aim. If evolution handed out MVP awards, this thing would already have a trophy cabinet. But as incredible as hunting is, our next entry doesn't hunt its victims. It hijacks them. Now, I should warn you, this next one gets weird, really weird. Because the next creature doesn't use claws, or venom, or speed. It uses mind control. Technically, it's not even an animal. It's a fungus. But after what you're about to hear, I think you'll agree. It earned a place on this list. It starts with microscopic spores. An insect accidentally walks through them. The spores attach, slip inside the body, and quietly begin taking over. At first, nothing seems different. The insect keeps eating, keeps walking, keeps living. Everything feels normal, but it isn't. Because little by little, the fungus takes control. Eventually, it forces the insect to climb to the perfect height. Then, it makes it bite tightly onto a leaf or branch, and stay there. The insect thinks it's making decisions. It isn't. It's basically running nature's version of malware. Only after reaching the perfect location, does the fungus kill its host, grow out of the body, and release thousands of new spores, ready to repeat the process. I'm not saying this is the plot of a horror movie. I'm just saying horror writers have definitely been taking notes. Thankfully, these fungi mostly target insects, because if they started infecting humans, I'd be recording this from a bunker. Nature doesn't always create stronger predators. Sometimes it just hacks the operating system. Now, after seeing exploding punches, living flamethrowers, and literal mind control, you'd probably expect evolution's greatest success to be the biggest, strongest, or fastest creature alive. Instead, it's us, which is honestly surprising, because physically, we're kind of a mess. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor. We can't outrun a cheetah. We can't outswim a shark. A goat can climb cliffs better than us. An eagle sees farther. A gorilla is stronger. We're basically the default settings of the animal kingdom. But evolution gave us something far more dangerous. Ideas. Think about it. One person discovers fire. Nobody else has to discover it again. Someone invents the wheel. Another improves it. Then engines, electricity, computers, the internet. Every generation starts where the last one finished. That's our real superpower. Not strength, not speed. Shared knowledge. We don't pass down sharper teeth, we pass down information. And information changed the planet. Humans didn't become Earth's dominant species because we were the strongest. We became the strongest because we learned together. But even after everything we've built, there's still one tiny creature that can survive things we never could. And somehow, it's smaller than a grain of sand. Meet the tardigrade, also known as the water bear. Which honestly sounds way too cute for something this overpowered. If survival had a world championship, the tardigrade would retire undefeated. It has no claws, no venom, no armor, no incredible intelligence. It doesn't chase prey, it doesn't fight predators. It simply refuses to die. Extreme heat? Not a problem. Extreme cold? Still alive. Crushing pressure at the bottom of the ocean? It'll manage. Deadly radiation? It shrugs. The vacuum of outer space? Been there, literally. Scientists have actually sent tardigrades into space. Most living things would have died almost immediately. The tardigrade came back alive. NASA basically looked at this tiny creature and said, "Okay, but what if we throw it into space?" The tardigrade's response was essentially, "That's adorable." So how does it do it? When conditions become impossible, the tardigrade doesn't fight. It doesn't run. It presses pause. Its body dries out. Its metabolism slows to almost zero. It curls into a tiny ball and waits. Days, years, sometimes even decades. Then, the moment water returns, it wakes up, stretches, and carries on with life, like it just enjoyed the greatest nap in history. Imagine oversleeping by 30 years and still being ready for work on Monday morning. That's the tardigrade. It isn't the strongest, it isn't the smartest, it isn't the fastest, but when survival itself becomes your superpower, you don't need anything else. And honestly, that might be the greatest flex in the entire animal kingdom. Here's the strange part. None of these creatures were trying to become overpowered. The mantis shrimp wasn't trying to break physics. The orca wasn't trying to become the ocean's final boss. The honey badger wasn't trying to terrify every predator it met. Okay, maybe the honey badger was. But the point is, evolution doesn't plan. It doesn't have meetings. It doesn't have blueprints. It simply keeps whatever works. One tiny improvement, then another, for millions of years. And every once in a while, those tiny upgrades stack together until nature accidentally creates something that feels completely broken. Almost like someone forgot to balance the game. So here's my question for you. Which animal do you think is the most overpowered? The shrimp that punches faster than a bullet? The orca that hunts sharks? The octopus that thinks with its arms? Or the tiny tardigrade that casually survived outer space? Let me know down in the comments. I read as many of them as I can. And if you enjoyed this journey into evolution's greatest accidents, make sure you subscribe. Because there are plenty more unbelievable stories where this came from. Until next time, stay curious. Because the more we learn about nature, the more it feels like reality has a better imagination than fiction ever could.